Hi. Hey guys, what's up? My name is Dom. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, I typically make bookish content, movie content, and anything else in between because I like to do whatever I want on this channel, and tonight is going to be movie content. For tonight's video, we are going to do the mid-year movie freakout tag, which is something I've been doing every year. I based this tag off the mid-year book freakout tag, which was not created by me. But it's very popular in booktube. A lot of people do it. I do that every year as well. I will link that video up above. And basically what I do is that I take those questions and answer them in movie form. So rather than saying what my favorite book of the year is so far, I say what's my favorite movie so far. It's just a great way to check in and see where I'm at. I've seen a little over 40 movies as of What's today's date? As of July 24th. Without further ado, let's get started. So question number one, what is the best movie that I watched so far this year? And that is going to be Aftersun. This movie is about a woman whose father is no longer in her life. She doesn't really know what went wrong. So she is reminiscing on the last vacation they ever took together to try to answer that question. This is my favorite movie of 2023 simply because of how hard I cried when the movie ended. It was such an interesting experience watching this movie because essentially this whole movie is actually a flashback. We see the older version of the woman for maybe like 5 minutes of screen time total. And the whole movie is essentially just a little girl on vacation with her dad and hanging out. And I was watching the movie kind of expressionless. Like, I mean, I would giggle here and there, have a chuckle here and there, but I wasn't like really reacting. I wasn't saying, I tend to talk to myself during movies. I wasn't really doing that. I was kind of just absorbing what I was watching. But then the music to the end credits hit me like a train. And I proceeded to sob for 30 minutes. And like literally, I don't mean like tears streaming down my face. I mean, I was ugly crying in my chair for 30 minutes, tears streaming down my face. I know my nose was runny. I was gasping. I was making all the crying sounds. I remember like doing one of these things at one point, and in the midst of that crying sesh, I got up, went to the next room and told my dad I love him. The underlying meaning of the movie is what got me as well, because on the surface, yes, it's about a little girl on vacation with her father, but when it gets down to it, it's about a father who wants to buy his daughter the world, but just unfortunately cannot afford it. And then a little girl who doesn't want the world, she just wants her father by her side. And something about that just destroyed me. That ending shot, the way it tied in with the rest of the movie, I was a mess, and I try to recommend this to as many people as I can. It is one of those movies that if you don't like it, I could definitely see why, just the way it's shot, and the way the scenes kind of jump cut a little bit. But overall, it seems like a lot of people do like it. It has an over 4-star rating on Goodreads. I meant Letterboxd, not Goodreads, wrong medium. And some of the stories on Letterboxd are heart-wrenching too, or gut-wrenching, heart-wrenching, just all of it. Like, not only was I crying for the movie, but then I read some of the 5-star reviews on Letterboxd, and I was crying for those people as well. So this movie just touches a lot of people. Clearly, the director has a very special relationship with her father. Because, oh my god, it's one of those movies, as much as I love it, I truly don't know if I could ever watch again, just because I had that reaction. I had such a, not only just, you know, a mental reaction to it, but just also such a physical reaction. And sometimes those movies are some of the best movies you'll ever see. Question number two is the best sequel you watched so far this year. And I do want to say, I forgot to add this in the beginning of the video, but all of these answers are going to be new to me movies. I won't be using any of the rewatches I did this year, unless it's a question that's specifically asked for one. But that being said, number two, best sequel you watched so far this year, that's going to be Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which is the sequel to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. If you don't know what that movie is about, it's about a guy named Miles Morales who gets bitten by a radioactive spider, and now he is the Spider-Man of his universe. But then all these other Spider-Mans come into play, and it's some of the best movies I've ever seen in my life. I was admittedly very worried going into this. Sometimes sequels can make or break a series. I had a feeling it would make the series, but I was still nervous. But then all these reviews on Twitter, Letterboxd, Facebook, just social media in general were raving. I sat in that theater and I had so much fun. First of all, it did not feel like it was 2.5 hours. It felt like it moved so fast, but in a good way, that I felt like only 5 minutes went by and suddenly the movie was over. I wanted to cry within the first 5 minutes of the movie regarding Gwen Stacy. It is one of the best stories I've ever seen narratively, and it's probably the best I've ever seen visually. It still amazes me how they can bring in all different types of animation styles into one movie and make it work. And also have just so many characters, and yet they all have their individual personalities. Because I feel like I've read some books and seen some movies where just too many people were involved and you can't really differentiate between all of them, but this one you easily can. And to this day, I'm still obsessed with how Gwen Stacy's universe was animated. That was probably my favorite visual, just the way they did that. My favorite designs were definitely Spider-Man India and then the hijabi Spider-Man that they had. And they also had a Spider-Woman in a wheelchair, and that was really cool watching her maneuver that and how she had crutches too, and she would kind of use those as webs. I thought that was incredibly creative. I literally have no bad things to say about this movie. This was a 5 out of 5 star watch. This is actually the second best movie I watched this year. Number 3 is new release you haven't seen yet but want to. Surprisingly, as of July 24th, I still have not seen Barbie or Oppenheimer, and those are the two movies I really want to see. I am seeing them 2 days from now, but as of filming this, I haven't seen them yet, and I've somehow avoided spoilers for Barbie. I don't know how I've done it, but I did. And then number 4 is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and I have two. They made a movie adaptation of All the Light We Cannot See, which I've read and I do have right here. So this is actually one of the most beautifully, exquisitely written books I've ever read in my life, and I still think about these characters to this day. So I'm excited to see how they do it in movie form, because a lot happens in this book and I'm sure it was hard to adapt. So I'm excited for that, but I'm also excited for The Hunger Games, The Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes, which I have here as well. This is essentially President Snow's origin story from when he was a mentor to the 10th Hunger Games. You get to learn a lot about the beginnings of the Hunger Games because it's so different. The 10th one is so different than what we see with Katniss. And I've always been a truther of this story. I remember when it was first announced this was published, and book Twitter was so mad because book Twitter is so fucking boring. God forbid we have a story that's not a hero's journey. Hold on, there is a fight happening outside my window. Anyway, book Twitter was so mad when Suzanne Collins announced she was publishing this book, just because people are like, oh, I don't like villain origin stories, I don't want him redeemed, which personally I don't think villain origin stories are redemption arcs. And they were all like, how am I supposed to feel sympathy for him? And it's like, I guarantee you, she doesn't want you to feel sorry for him. Like, the day people learn not every story needs to be a hero's journey, because some are meant to be cautionary tales, is the day I will know peace. And people actually went online and said, I don't like this book because I couldn't sympathize with him. And it's like, that is the whole point of this book. You're not supposed to. And then once people started asking, why does she want us to sympathize with him? That's when I gave up on book Twitter officially. However, they announced this movie and all of book Twitter is, the same people are suddenly so excited that this movie's coming out. And I'm like, 3 years ago, y'all were complaining about this story, and now y'all want to see this movie? Okay, I've been a truther since the beginning. I was never an anti, but you know what? I'm gonna set my differences aside, and I'll be first in line in November when it comes out. Number 5 is the biggest disappointment, and I'm gonna go with Megan, which is that horror movie about that dancing doll that Twitter was freaking out over in the beginning of the year, and now no one talks about. People were saying this movie is fun, it's campy, it had raving reviews, so I went to go see it. It's the first movie I watched in 2023. Quite frankly, this is not good. Y'all are fucking lying to me. I knew it wasn't going to be scary. I knew it wasn't going to be that type of horror. So I went into it just expecting full camp, because that's the way it was also described to me. But again, y'all lied. This was not campy. There's like one scene I can think of that I would consider campy. Otherwise, it needed much more for me to like it. I was just so disappointed with how this turned out. This is the type of movie you watch when you're like 12 and being introduced to the concept of horror for the first time. This is something, like, me and my friends at 12 years old definitely would have rented this from Blockbuster and watched it after midnight after our parents went to bed and enjoyed it. Growing up, because that's what we did with Orphan. I grew up, rewatched Orphan, wasn't a huge fan. That's what this movie is. It's not the worst movie I watched in 2023, but I was just expecting so much better. Number 6 is the biggest surprise, and I'm actually going to go with the live action Little Mermaid. This is the biggest surprise to me just because I went into it expecting it to be not good like other Disney live actions are, but this is arguably Disney's best live action film in my opinion. I went into this knowing Halle Bailey was gonna body the singing. Like, she's an amazing singer, so I already knew that. I was actually just more shocked about her acting, just because she doesn't have a lot of acting credits under her belt, so I wasn't sure what to expect. And also just knowing how this movie was made, how she was just essentially surrounded by green screen. I really liked the new songs they brought in. I was really impressed with Melissa McCarthy as Ursula. I was also impressed that she could sing. And I was really impressed with how they did the underwater scenes, because that was the one where I was like, how are y'all gonna do that? And watching the behind the scenes of that is pretty cool. And I don't know, I didn't hate it, and I didn't dislike it either. Like, I genuinely enjoyed my experience at the theater watching this. Will I ever watch it again? I don't know, because obviously the cartoon version is gonna hold a special place in my heart because it's the first one, the nostalgia, but this is not bad by any means. Just the two main issues I had with it were the pacing. It could be a little long at times, and I absolutely cannot stand Awkwafina as Scuttle. That was fucking annoying. Oh, but also Ariel and Eric's relationship in this, it is so much more fleshed out than it is in the original cartoon, and they are so cute, especially with how Ariel told Eric her name. It made me want to believe in love again. Number 7 is favorite new director or new to you. I'm gonna go with Charlotte Wells. She is the director of Aftersun. And apparently Aftersun is her debut, which I would have never guessed. It's such a well-made movie. Number 8 is newest fictional crush, and I'm gonna go with Padik from The Banshees of Inisherin. This is the movie that made me realize I am ready to risk it all for Colin Farrell. Also, Padik is just very cute. Like, he's dim. I mean, like, physically he's cute, but also, like, as a person, he's really cute. Like, yeah, he's a bit dim. He's not the sharpest tool in the shed, but he's really nice, at least in the beginning of the film, because the whole point of the film is watching that all derail, but, like, he was really nice in the beginning. Number 9 is newest favorite characters. I am just gonna go with Wade and Ember from Elemental. Absolutely do not watch this film if you are single and a hopeless romantic, as am I. I was sobbing my entire way through this film. This is one of the best movies I watched in 2023. And I love these two. These two were so cute together. Number 10, movie that made you cry. I have 2. One of them is Aftersun. I already discussed that. The other one is Elemental. I literally just talked about that. Never has a romance made me cry the way this movie has made me cry. And that's what that movie is. I feel like the marketing for Elemental just did it so dirty. So many people went into it thinking it was just gonna be another Zootopia, but that's not it at all. It's literally just a love story. And I loved it. Number 11 is a movie that made you happy. I'm gonna go with the Super Mario Brothers movie. I wasn't expecting to like this as much as I did. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and it literally made me feel like I was in a Mario video game, which is what I wanted from the film. I wasn't expecting any like deep thought or something. I just wanted to have fun, and I had a lot of fun with this. The pacing's extremely fast. You don't have time to breathe between scenes, but I feel like that's also what made the movie so fun. Like, I felt like I was always on the go and scared I was gonna come across something like a banana or a turtle shell, what have you. And Jack Black's song was really fun. I thought all the characters were well done, including Mario. Like, I know a lot of people didn't like when Chris Pratt was casted, and I do feel bad for the guy who does actually voice Mario in the games. However, given what the movie was going for, I do think Chris Pratt did a good job. And all the characters were fun to watch, especially the star, the nihilistic star. Number 12 is the most beautiful movie poster so far this year. I have a lot. I'm not going to go into detail with these movies or why I like the posters. They're just cool to look at. We got Renfield, Across the Spider-Verse, and Asteroid City. And then number 13 is what I need to watch by the end of the year. Of course, some of the fall releases, which given the strike, who knows what's happening with those, because a lot of them are like, we're going to push them back till 2024. But there's All the Light We Cannot See, and so far I don't think they've announced anything about this movie adaptation. So those 2 movies are the new Disney movie Wish. That looks really fun. I have a lot of horror movies I want to watch. There's a silent film called Haxan, Gaslight, Dawn of the Dead, Pit and the Pendulum, Carrie, the original one with Susie Spacek, Ouija, the Ouija sequel, X, Pearl, Evil Dead, just trying to like catch up on a lot of old horror movies that I've never seen before. And then there's 2 more questions to this that I created. They have nothing to do with the book version of this tag. So question number 14 is the oldest movie I have watched. That will be Wings, which is a silent film that came out in 1927. It's about 2 guys who went off to fight in World War I. They become pilots. There's a love triangle going on. And I thought it was a good movie. I did react to it. You can watch that up above. The practical effects in this film are really, really cool, and it's the first ever film to win Best Picture at the Oscars. And then number 15, the last question, is your favorite rewatches. So that being said, I rewatched the original Little Mermaid. I rewatched all 3 of those movies actually, and I had a lot of fun. It's been years since I've seen them, and I still love the music. The music was stuck in my head for weeks after that. I rewatched The Wizard of Oz because I went through like a slight Wicked era for about a week when they were showing all the new pictures for the new movies. I was like, oh my god, Wicked, let's listen to the soundtrack. Well, now I want to watch Wizard of Oz. Wizard of Oz used to be my favorite movie as a kid, and that's another movie I just hadn't seen in years, so that was really fun. Another one where songs are constantly stuck in my head. And I Need to Marry a Man Who Can Sing Like the Tin Man. And then in the very beginning of the year, back in January, I watched 2013's The Great Gatsby. I don't know why, because Little Mermaid I rewatched because the new one was coming out. Wizard of Oz I rewatched because my Little Wicked phase. Great Gatsby, I just felt the urge to rewatch it for some reason. And I love the movie. I love the visuals of this movie. I love the music of this movie. I think Leo DiCaprio did a great job as Jay Gatsby. And the movie made me appreciate the book more. This is one of the rare times where I actually enjoy the film more than I do the book. And I love the aesthetic of the 1920s, and like, yes, I understand the point of The Great Gatsby is that the American dream is fake and we can't repeat the past, and that's explicitly said like 3 times. And yet I would still love to explore the 1920s. And we're in the 20s, and I still have not been invited to a Great Gatsby theme party. I think I would go pretty hard with those costumes though, the costume and the makeup, girl. So if you guys like are having a party, a Great Gatsby theme party anytime soon, just HMU, hit me up on Instagram or whatever, because I'll be there. And that is it for this video. Let me know down below your answers to any of these questions. Let me know your favorite movie, the worst movie you watched so far this year. And if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. And without further ado, I'm gonna peace out and I'll see you guys later. Ciao, tutti.